Hi, I'm Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope. Well, I've been waiting for something like this to happen here in Australia. It looks like it's finally happening. We've got this story here, just come out today. The headline says, Australian government is hit with class action lawsuit over COVID vaccines. So a landmark COVID-19 vaccine injury class action lawsuit has been filed against the Australian government and the medicines regulator. The nationwide suit, which reportedly has 500 members, including 3 named applicants, seeks redress from those allegedly left injured or bereaved by the COVID-19 vaccines. One of the applicants, who suffered a severe heart condition after getting the Pfizer jab, is even claiming there was cover-up during the vaccine rollout which hid the potential risks. The federal government, Therapeutics Good Administration, the TGA, and the Department of Health, in addition to a number of senior public servants, are all named as parties to the class action, which was filed in the New South Wales Federal Court on Wednesday. The named parties are accused of negligence in their approval and monitoring of the COVID-19 vaccines, breach of statutory duty, and misfeasance in public office. The lawsuit was organised by Queensland GP Dr. Melissa McCann, who raised over $105,000 through crowdfunding. So these injured and bereaved have suffered immense loss, pain, and grief, says Dr. McCann, or she tweeted. So just as heartbreaking has been the gaslighting and silence, which has left them feeling abandoned. We cannot simply move on from COVID and leave them behind. Dr. McCann has been critical of the existing compensation scheme, claiming it was not fit for purpose. Would agree. Many vaccine-injured Australians who cannot access compensation through the Services Australia scheme now find themselves abandoned with no support, the doctor has said. The size of the compensation claim being sought is not yet clear. The TGA has been contacted for comment. So the latest health safety report published on the 20th of April reveals that adverse risks are extremely low. There are 138,307 total adverse events reported from nearly 66 million vaccine doses administered, which is a rate of just 0.2%, which is great. I love the way they downplay the figure. I mean, that figure's, that figure would be, it'd probably be more acceptable if you had a choice of taking the vaccine. Unfortunately, a lot of these people felt that they had no real choice, because although the government can twist things and say, well, you did have a choice, you didn't have to take it. The threat of losing your job, the threat of not being able to go out and anywhere other than buy groceries, never have a coffee out in public, that threat was too great for a lot of people. The threat of not being able to move about normally. I mean, we're crying out loud, not being able to work. Of course, people felt pressured. Of course, people felt like there was no choice but to take the vaccine. You got bills to pay, you got to work. Anyway, so the protective benefits of vaccination far outweigh the potential risks. This is what the TGA's report says. The medicines regulator has identified a total of 14 reports where the cause of death was linked to vaccination, and said there was no new vaccine-related deaths identified since 2022. None identified. The TGA closely monitors reports of suspected side effects, also known as adverse events to the COVID-19 vaccine, it says. I also did a report talking about the insurance company pressuring doctors, okay, because they cannot be covered if they were not going to go along with the vaccination program that the government were running. If you said anything, said anything adverse about the program, if you bucked your heels, if you raised any concerns, you could see your insurance taken away. Anyway, but there's nothing to worry about, they say. It says this is the most intensive safety monitoring ever conducted of any vaccine in Australia, but instructing solicitor Natalie Stridland, and how you say that, Stridland, I'll say, of Brisbane's law firm NR Barbie, said the action would argue the TGA caused considerable harm and damage by failing to regulate the COVID-19 vaccinations properly. The class action names 3 applicants, one of whom is 41-year-old father of 2, Gareth O'Grady. Mr. O'Grady, a teacher from Melbourne, was left with a 20-centimetre scar down his chest after developing severe pericarditis, inflammation of the lining around the heart, following his first Pfizer vaccination in July 2021. He did not respond to various medications and therapies, and in February 2022, doctors performed open heart surgery, my goodness, to remove the pericardial sac lining his heart. Oh, wow. The TGA said myocarditis and pericarditis were usually temporary conditions, with most people getting better within a few days, noting that the Australian Technical Advisory Group and on Immunisation, which is ATAGI, we love our acronyms, don't we, continues to emphasise that the protective benefits of the vaccines far outweigh the rare risk of these side effects. But Mr. O'Grady believes there has been misinformation about the safety of the vaccines from the government. I would agree. I believe there's been a lot of misinformation out there on behalf of the government. He says, I think there's been some cover-up, he told news.com.au. There was a lot of, we need to not scare the public as part of the vaccine rollout. So let's not publicize these things. There was a large intentional withholding of information that doesn't give people informed consent. He claimed that he was totally not or never have been anti-vaccine. I'm pro-science. I'm well-educated, he said. Mr. O'Grady told the Australian that he was worried about the anti-vaccine lobby piggybacking on the class action. He is joined by 2 other lead claimants, Antonio De Rossi, however you may say that, who was 66, who developed, how do you say that, encephalomyelitis, which is inflammation in the brain and spinal cord. Wow. Following his AstraZeneca jab, and Anthony Rose, 47, who claims severe cognitive impairment and chronic fatigue following his Moderna vaccination. The existing compensation scheme, which is open to Australians who suffer a moderate to severe impact following an adverse reaction to a TGA-approved COVID-19 vaccine, has been heavily criticised for being difficult to access and too narrowly focused. As of April 12, Services Australia has received 3,501 applicants and paid 137 claims, totalling more than 7.3 million. Another 2,263 claims are still in progress, while 405 have been withdrawn and 696 deemed not payable. So there you go. Look, I think this has been a long time coming. I hope it gets ahead. I think, I personally believe there has been quite a bit of cover-up when it comes to the vaccine and just how effective they are. My biggest issue has always been, biggest issue I've always had with the vaccine rollout in Australia is the lack of choice. Okay, we go and pressure people in by threatening their employment, and then we turn around, the government turns around and says, oh, well, it is your choice. And yet you can't have it both ways. You can't sit there threatening someone's ability to earn a living and pay their bills and then turn around and say, oh, but it's your choice whether you have it or not. That's not the way a democratic government is supposed to work. That's the government that's the government of scoundrels, really. Scoundrels and cheats and liars. That's just my opinion. I hope this lawsuit gets up. I tell you, might teach a few people a thing or two. Let me know what you think. Thanks for listening to the Slippery Slope